Hello everyone, this is Parker Folliard. I'll be representing Alex Grant, Dominic Martinez, and Thomas Champion. Our group had a lower extremity venous ulcer with copious exudate in a red ruddy wound bed. So I'm going to be going over a few of the features of our wound here. As you can see, the wound is really irregular because it is a venous insufficiency ulcer. We have the red ruddy wound bed here, that deep red color, and then we have this copious amounts of exudate coming down this way. Because this is such a wet wound, we do have some kind of like a ring of macerated tissue around the wound, and as you move into the peri-wound, you get a little bit of drying and scaling, and then you get this extensive hemosiderin staining all around the wound. We also have a little yellow slough here in the wound bed to provide some contrast to our red ruddy wound bed. Another telltale sign that this is a venous insufficiency ulcer is the fact that it's on the medial malleolus. So, because this is a heavily draining wound, it's a venous insufficiency ulcer, that's kind of a double indication that we would be using a alginate dressing to absorb a lot of this exudate. That's going to be our primary dressing, and then as our secondary dressing, paired a lot with alginate, is a semi-permeable foam, and this will be an adhesive dressing to go around the wound. It'll offer more absorption and some protection, and we are going to want to use a skin sealant around the peri-wound to help protect it because it is a little dry. So I'm going to be going over the bandaging procedure and how this would occur. So the first thing that we need to do is assemble all our equipment here. I have the skin sealant, our foam, and our alginate. This isn't really a clean field, sterile field representation because I only have two hands to film this video. But the first thing we're going to do is position this patient comfortably. We would probably want to float the heel here so that there's no pressure there, and we want to be able to have good lighting and observe this wound. Next, we're going to explain our general procedure to the patient. We're going to wash our hands and don some clean gloves. After that, if there is an old bandage, we're going to note the date. Semi-permeable foam can be on for anywhere from 3 to 7 days, so we would want to see if there was an old dressing. And then to remove this adhesive type dressing, we're going to lift up on the corner of the dressing and then pull longitudinally so that we don't disturb the peri-wound or create any skin tearing. So because we just removed an old dressing, we are going to remove our dirty gloves, discard those, and then assemble our necessary bandaging supplies and open them now. We want to open them right before we put them on so that we don't get a lot of contamination. So now, again, apply clean gloves. Next, what we're going to do is inspect this wound. We're going to look and see if there's any changes, and then we may need to irrigate the wound, and in this case, we may need to do a little bit of debridement here because there is some yellow slough. So I would explain this to the patient. I would perform that debridement and then note any changes that are going on before I then applied skin sealant to the peri-wound to offer some protection for our bandaging. So, next, I'm going to remove and discard these soiled gloves again because we just performed some debriding, and then we're going to don some clean gloves. And now we're actually going to put the dressing on. First will be the primary dressing, the alginate. We're going to make sure that covers the entire wound bed. And then we would put the semi-permeable foam over it. The big thing you want to make sure here with an adhesive dressing is that you have about a 1 to 2 centimeter intact area of peri-wound to put that adhesive dressing on. And then we're going to, pat down the edges of this adhesive dressing, smooth it out, and make sure there's no wrinkles. So now that I've been touching the bandages and everything, I would remove these gloves again because they are soiled. I'm going to initial and date this bandage that I just put on, wash my hands, and then do the necessary documentation, and we're done with the bandaging.